see you.
When I come on, it's just me frozen, and then I can just hear myself talking.
I know. No one wants that. It's because you've got your dad case and it's still flipped round the wrong way. That's the problem.
You tit. Oh well, we're working now. It only seems to work off my phone, this, but it always means that I'm on top, dominating as always.
Well, someone has to.
All right, Judy. Thanks for joining us. Cool. Right, we'll kick off. It's the shit beard. Is she your friend? Because she's not my friend.
She is. I'll boot it out after this live's done.
put the pillow across the ribs. Cool. Right, team. We'll make a start. Okay. We'll make a start. We've got a few questions to get through, as always. If anyone's got any questions, throw them in the comments below. And then we will work our way through. So I'll kick off. And my first question I got today of Dean was, can you stay in a cutting phase / calorie deficit for too long? There's a difference between them. There's a difference between cutting phase and there's a difference between a calorie deficit. Now, somebody who is cutting generally has been training quite a while. They've been bulking for a bit. And now they're trying to cut down to show off the muscle mass that they've built. So that's a cutting phase. So if you're going to cut, I'd say you don't need to cut much more than 10 to 12 weeks, in all honesty. Like I say, if you're doing a cut, you're well into your training. You know your nutrition's on point. You probably just have to come down a couple hundred calories and then you'll cut. Now, the difference between that and a calorie deficit is someone generally who's wanting to lose body fat, who wants to trim down. Where you probably do this before you then start looking at bulking and cuts and stuff like that. So the question I'll answer is it possible to stay in a calorie deficit for too long? No, not really. It depends how big your deficit is. Now, a calorie deficit is generally 200 or 300 calories below someone's maintenance. Now, if you're 500, 600, 700, 800 calories below your maintenance and you're crippling yourself, especially if you're female, if you're going to stay in that big of a deficit, then yes, it will hinder you. It'll cause all sorts of problems with your hormones. It'll fuck your body up, basically. So if you're in a big calorie deficit, which I'd never recommend for anyone because it's A, it's not healthy, B, it's not sustainable, and you don't need to, then you are going to do some damage. If you're in a deficit where it's just a couple of hundred calories below your maintenance and you're losing body fat, fine, then no, you can stay like that. But you'll get to a point where that deficit then does actually become your maintenance. So if you're, without blabbing on for too long, once you're in a deficit for so long, you're going to lose the body fat in accordance to the specific deficit. And you're going to get to a point where them calories you're eating will then become your maintenance calories. So then you have to reassess. And then if you want to lose more body fat, if you need to lose more body fat, then you'd reduce your calories slightly again. So in answer to the question, can you stay in a cutting phase calorie deficit too long? No, not really, unless you're going to cause damage, unless your calorie deficit is wrong and it's too much of a deficit and it's too aggressive. I hope that answers your question. I don't want to go on too long and confuse everyone and everyone will just switch off. If it hasn't answered your question, fire more questions below or DM me or Liam and we'll get back to you. Liam, you got anything to add to that?
So yeah, like Jay said, it's more sort of a case of like, call it metabolic adaptation. So if you're burning 2,000 calories a day and you're like, obviously you're consuming 2,000, you've hit your sort of like your maintenance point. You then have to drop your calories down to say 1,800 to be in a deficit. If then your weight comes down, your BMR comes down, which is like your basal metabolic rate, that's the amount of calories you burn generally surviving. If your weight comes down, your BMR comes down with it. You may not be generally as active because you're on less food. Your workouts might not be as intense. So obviously your calorie output is going to come down. So it's sort of just, you can't stay in a deficit for like a specific too long a period. It's just whether that deficit is still a deficit. So you've got to sort of adapt with it as your body adapts. Then you've got to obviously adapt your nutrition to suit. So yeah, it's worth monitoring that. If your weight loss stalls, your fat loss stalls, then obviously adapt to suit. But in terms of being in a deficit for too long, not really. But do you want to be in a deficit for too long? Have you got anything to underneath all that fat that you want to sort of display? If not, then sort of what are you going into a deficit for? So I'd suggest sort of monitoring your goals and what you want the outcome to be.
I think it all depends.
Sorry, carry on.
So I think it all depends on you personally as well. Like I know I always say this, especially being female, if you're in too much of a deficit and you're in a deficit for too long and you're crippling yourself, you can start losing your hair. It messes up with your menstrual cycles. It messes everything up. So it depends on you personally, and it depends on how aggressive this deficit we're talking about is. But like we said, if you're in a deficit, there's no reason you should be in it for too long. Sorry, Lee, go on.
It's all right. Used to it. So I had a question about is nutrient timing important? So generally for fat loss, I'd look for sort of distribution across the day. So as we've discussed in the past, to do with protein intake, I distribute protein across the day generally for digestive reasons as like a main pointer. So if you're trying to consume 180, 200 grams of protein in one sitting, it's going to do your digestion no good. It's going to be boring. You're going to have to consume mass amounts of portions of your protein choice. So in terms of just for satisfaction, I generally just advise distributing across the day. In terms of training times, I generally advise some carbs pre-workout, depending upon activity. So resistance training, I generally will consume carbs an hour or two before a train. Obviously, people do fasted exercise and whatnot. That's another debate, another question. Post-workout, I generally advise consuming a protein source. So within an hour or so of training, there's this sort of, everyone's like a nutrient window afterwards. Just try and get it in as soon as you can, if that's like an hour or so. A bit of protein afterwards and get some carbs back in your system. Sort of replenish your stores after your workout. Pre-workout, I'd suggest a food that sort of settles on your stomach well. So generally, like dairy doesn't do me too good in terms of if I consume like mass amounts of yogurt or if I have loads of milk in my cereal. It doesn't sit quite right with me, and it can sort of affect my training performance. So I'd advise a food that sits quite well. If there's something that upsets you or disrupts you digestively, then probably not worth consuming that pre-workout. But generally across the day, I wouldn't get too sort of bogged down in nutrient time and just try and distribute accordingly. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to sort of mathematically plan it out, but if you're having 5 meals and you can distribute evenly across, then great. In terms of carbs after a certain time, this was referenced in the question. It's a myth. So people say, oh, carbs after 7, carbs after 8. You should only worry about gaining fat if you're in a surplus. So you could put yourself in a surplus at midday and you could be in a deficit at midnight. It doesn't really make a difference. I'd worry more about the food you're consuming across the day rather than just a specific period. I think people tag on sort of like myths like this, like scaremongering for sort of like, people generally will snack late at night. If you're sat on the couch watching Netflix or you're watching a film, you might have like some sweet, some popcorn, you might have some chocolate, you might get a takeaway, and it's generally just at that time. It's not specifically that time of day. It's obviously your habits at that time of day. So I generally pay attention to what you're consuming across the day rather than just a specific window. There's no carbs at 4 calories per gram at 11 at night or 11 in the morning. It doesn't really matter. So yeah, I wouldn't worry specifically about any time of day specifically. It's not going to make any impact at all.
No, not really. Okay, what's that there? Joe Nolan, do you eat cereal? Joe, you look like you could do with a bowl of cereal, mate.
I eat more cereal in one bowl than Joe has in his life collectively.
Looks like it. Okay, question I had. Looking to join the army, should I be running with a weight on your back? Lee, do you want to take that one? No. So, no is the answer. Should you be running weights on your back? No. And this comes down to any occupation, really, not just the army, whether you're looking to join the police or whatever you're wanting to join. Should you be looking to run with weight on your back or with boots and stuff? Not at all. The army, in particular, aren't looking for you to be an athlete. They're looking for a foundation to build on. So if you're going to start running with weights on your back, you're going to knack your knees, you're going to knack your hips, you're going to knack your back, and that's before you've even started training. By the time you get to training, you're going to be burnt out, your joints are going to be knackered, and you're going to be no use to anyone. You're not going to pass anything. you'll end up just needing months and months of physio and then end up getting booted out in the end. So no, go with a good foundation to work on, a basic level of fitness. Okay, the British Army is the best army in the world. They will build you up and they will build you how they want you to be. All right, I did the same when I was looking to join the army. I was like, oh, get a rucksack on my back. Don't need to. Get a decent mile and a half run time. Concentrate on some strength and conditioning. Get some heavy deadlifts done, chest press, stuff like that. Build your body up so it can withstand stress, and get your cardiovascular in check, and then let them build you how you want to. And that goes with anything really, like the police and stuff like that. They don't want athletes. They don't want Mo Farah to come through the door and be able to run stupid mile and a half times. They just want something they can build on, really. Just go. Don't break yourself before you get there. You know what I mean? Just turn up, fueled and ready to go. Not already peaked. So yeah, no is the answer.
Said he let Jay in, so I wouldn't worry too much. Jay was about 8 stone, piss wet through. By the looks of it when he told me, so I wouldn't worry about that.
There's zero muscle. I was about 8 stone, no hair, but I could just run fast as fuck, and that was it.
That's it.
That's all I needed.
So I've had a question today regarding weight loss stalling. And then there's another variable I'll go into, but weight loss stalling generally. So we all know the variables that go into sort of weight loss. You could just go for a poo. Like generally, I advise it to clients, and it's crude, but I've generally took a habit with people at the moment of weighing in daily. So I've just set up a 6-week challenge with people. They have a daily log that they fill in, and it details weight, sort of like nutritional performance steps, and it gives an average over the week. So generally I'd advise, if you mentally can hack it and you don't sort of get too bogged down with the number on the scales, weigh in daily and get an average over the week. So whatever you weigh, divide it by 7, or if you can get a bit of an Excel spreadsheet going, have a look at that. There might be days where you've eaten a bit later than usual, you might be a bit more hydrated, and generally it might just be that you've not been to the toilet, so it can be toilet habit dependent. This person also mentioned the menstrual cycle and how that can impact weight. So generally you will probably experience a bit of bloat during your menstrual cycle, certain stages. Your food cravings might be higher. You will hold on to water generally. So what me and Jay generally advise, and we spoke about this before on lives, is sort of compare on like a 4-week basis or a monthly basis. So say you're on a week 1 now, compare your week 1 with your week 5 and your week 9, compare your week 2 with week 6, and so on. So you're sort of getting an average of, if it is that time of the month, see where you're at last time during that same period. So I generally wouldn't get too bogged down in it. Just keep ticking the boxes. You may generally find that you crave into a bit higher during your menstrual cycle. If that means that you want to consume 100 or 200 more calories during that time, I wouldn't worry about it. Fat loss is like timeless, it's limitless. So it's not like you go to bed at midnight and whatever deficit you're in removes from your body, or whatever surplus you're in adds to your body. It's a rolling figure. So if you've got to consume a couple of 100 calories for 3 or 4 days in that week, you can always pour it back elsewhere, and I wouldn't worry about it. And monitor training performance as well. Your training performance could be a bit more impacted. You may not be able to go as heavy as you can. So just track these statistics. It's a natural thing that women go through each month. Just take it as it is. It's a natural thing. And like we mentioned before about fat loss, just be sort of not pleased, but you've still got a menstrual cycle. There's a lot of women, especially when they get into competing, who will lose the menstrual cycle, and it can take them months, possibly even years to get back to. So just take it as a natural process like it is, and there's always another day, another week. It's limitless. So just get through that period, take it as it is, and like I said, just compare the statistics month by month as opposed to day by day.
Yeah, like I try and work quite closely with my female clients on this, and I try and understand it as best I can. Being male, it's hard. And then when I've got 30 female clients, and every single one of them, their bodies react differently. So the point I'm trying to make is, if you are, this is specifically female, obviously, if you are female, work with your own body. Don't use your menstrual cycle as an excuse, which some people try, which some females try to do. Don't use it as an excuse, and just work with your body. If you know certain times of the month are better for X, Y, and Z, but you can't do this, this, and this, then work with it, and then like be open with your coach as well. Even if your coach is male or female, it doesn't matter. just work with it. The worst thing you could probably try and do is go onto a session with a coach and your coach is trying to push you, whereas you're at a point in your cycle where you're prone to a dislocation or something like that. Last thing you want is your PT trying to get you on a heavy squat. Next minute, you're knackered, you've hurt yourself. So just work with your cycles and just work around it, and just don't use it as an excuse. Like Liam said, just don't get bogged down with the numbers and what happens, and don't try and fight science. Don't try and stop it. Don't try and beat it or anything like that, because it's not going to work. You're just going to mess your body up. Next question I had was, how do I work out maintenance calories? Okay, working out maintenance calories is a tough one. Liam touched on it before, talking about BMR. There's many ways of working it out. The best way, and it sounds like a bit of a get-out answer to this question, but the best way of working out your maintenance calories is test and adjusting. So if I had a client who came to me and said, I want to maintain, then what I would do is a bit of quick maths. I'd use their body weight in pounds, and I would times that by 15. All right. So, and that's where I'd start. Now, I might be completely out with that number. And the best way of working out your maintenance calories is eat consistently and at a set amount of calories. So if you take your body weight and times it in pounds, times it by 15, start with that. Say that's 2,000 calories, just for argument, and stay at that every single day for 7 days, 2 weeks, and then monitor your weight. If your weight stays the same, happy days, you found your maintenance straight away. You're quite lucky, because it can take a while to work your maintenance out. If your weight comes down, then you know you need to go up to 2,200, 2,100 miles. You need to increase your calories. If your weight goes up, but you want it to break down, then you need to come from that 2,000 and come down to about 1,800 or something like that. So you just need to test and adjust. So general rule of thumb, what I would do, other coaches might do it a bit different. But the way I would do it is I'd go body weight in pounds, times that by 15, and then I would test and adjust from there. Start with that. If you add weight, take food off. If you lose weight, add food on. And that's the best way of working out your maintenance, really. You can sit there and do all sorts of equations and use the calculators on the internet and stuff like that. And you'll eat the calories that the calculator says, and you might lose 2 pounds, you might add 2 pounds. Every single person is different. You might burn more than the person next to you. You might be more active, less active, etc., etc. The list goes on. So the best way is just by going through it and testing as you go along. That's how I would put it in.
Yeah, I agree. Like you say, it's the most annoying answer in the world, but people go, how much should I be eating to lose? I'm here, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'll have people come up to me and go, how much should I eat to lose fat? And you get the most annoying answer in the world, and it's like, it depends. Yeah. And it's like, sounds like the biggest cop-out answer, but it's true. There's no sort of figure that you can dictate. And the most frustrating thing as a coach is saying, right, you're on 1,800 calories a day, stick with that. And then in 2 or 3 weeks' time, you'll get a client who goes, I've not lost any weight. And you go, have you been sticking to your calories? And they'll go, yeah, the weekend they have a takeaway, and then some days they have like a little bit more if they're a bit hungry. And it's sort of like you're sort of pissing on your own parade. If I was to give someone 2,000 calories a day and he's stuck to it for 4 weeks and they've lost weight, then great, they're in a deficit. If they put weight on, they're in a surplus. You've got to be as consistent as the sort of results demand. You can't gauge what you're using if you're all over the place. If you're consuming 3,000 one day, 1,500 the day after, you've got to give it a good go, and don't try and take any shortcuts. So, like Jay said, there's all these calculations and fancy calculators all over the internet. It's a case of trial and error. We can easily plummet someone into a deficit. So I guarantee that probably everyone will be in a calorie deficit on 1,000 calories. And on the flip side, put someone on 4,000, 4,500 calories a day, the vast majority of people will be in a surplus. So anyone can put you in those sort of circumstances, but generally just pick a figure, stick with it for 3 or 4 weeks, gauge progress, and just adjust accordingly.
Yeah. Simple as that.
Yeah. So as I said, there's no science to it. Just trust your coach, and adjustments will come as you would hear. Next question I had in the members area this morning. What is the difference between a split squat and a lunge? So there isn't really much difference. You could sort of see a split squat as like a static lunge in a way. I'd probably advise this more for people who are not as sort of good on the feet, shall we say. So if you're a bit sort of like Bambi on ice, you do a lunge and you're wobbling all over the place, your back knee smacks the floor, you can't maintain sort of proper posture, I'd suggest maybe just doing a split squat. I've had clients in the past who will do a split squat and they'll sort of hold the surface, so they'll hold onto a squat rack. They'll sort of just balance on something to take the balance out of the equation in a way. It just means that you can sort of put a bit more brunt on the leg rather than worrying about staying balanced. Generally, similar movements. Stride length will sort of dictate dominant muscles. So if your stride length's a bit shorter in your lunges or split squats, it's probably a bit more quad dominant. If your stance is a bit longer, you're probably pushing more through hamstrings and glutes. Again, posture, if you're leaning a bit forward, you're probably working glutes more. So it's a similar movement. I'd do whatever you can sort of do better, what you enjoy more. If you can enjoy split squats, I don't think anyone really enjoys them. They're just sort of one of those movements that you do. Whatever you can do, if you can balance and you can lunge, then by all means do lunges. If you struggle balance-wise, you haven't sort of got the mobility to get up and down, just do some split squats. It's not an issue at all.
Yeah, split squat is good for like someone who's quite new to training as well. If you try throwing someone on like a full squat, there'll be a catalogue of issues. So a split squat's a good way of building up to it. And then same with a lunge. If your core stability is not there, you try and do a lunge, you're going to be all over the show. So you may as well like Liam said, hold on to it, concentrate on getting the movement of a split squat right, build up your muscle in your lower leg and your strength, and then core stability will come with it, so then you can move on to more complex exercises. Okay, is it okay to miss breakfast? Of course it is. Of course it is. Yeah, it's no dictatorship. You can eat meals when you want to eat meals. You can miss meals whenever you want to miss meals. I think it's quite a myth. You need to eat breakfast to start your metabolism and all this shit. I quite frequently miss breakfast. I prefer just to get stuff done. I prefer to get some work done, walk the dog, train and bits and bobs, and then I'll eat in the afternoon. It's a bit of laziness really, especially if I'm in the gym. If I'm in the gym for 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, I'd rather have 10, 15 minutes in bed extra, and then I'll eat when I get home. Some people are the opposite. Some people can't start the day until they've had a breakfast. Ultimately, it's what works for you. If you have a busy morning, if you've got a family, you've got to get kids to school, kids up and dressed, etc., etc., and you haven't got time, you just have a meal maybe at 10, 11 o'clock. That's what I generally do. I'll have something at 10, 11 o'clock, and then I'll have a lunch at like 1, 2 o'clock, and then evening meal. It's not detrimental that you have a meal in the morning. It might help you if you're on quite low calories. If you're on 1,200-1,300 calories, it might help to split your calories evenly. So if you want a bigger lunch and a bigger evening meal, well then that might help you a little bit. What's this? All about saving breakfast calories. But yeah, exactly. That's what we do. Save breakfast calories, have a massive lunch. Not eaten breakfast since 1988. Exactly. So you don't need to have breakfast if you don't want to, and that's what it comes down to. Do you want it? Yes or no? I'm a brunch girl, fully converted. Don't miss breakfast. So there you go. So yeah, there's quite a few people. Say Liam Burns grumpy without breakfast. So some people do need it. Some people don't need it. It's entirely what works for you, what works for your lifestyle, and how long you can go. Like some people won't be able to go half an hour without eating, so they'll need breakfast. Yeah.
It must be a Liam thing, that, because I'm like that. So I'm sort of the opposite to Jay. I generally want to eat in the morning.
Yeah.
I'll generally train in the morning a lot of the time. So when the gyms are open as normal, I'll get my workout done before work, and I like to eat before a workout. So I generally look at it, take sort of like meal names out the equation, so take breakfast out the equation, lunch, dinner, whatever, and just have like meal 1, meal 2, meal 3. If that means that your meal 1's at 5, 6 in the morning, then great. If that means it's at midday, then great. Like Jay said, in fat loss sense, you can if you can push your first meal out to 10, 11 in the morning, obviously you're closing that eating window down and you're sort of pushing your calories a bit further. If you're the sort of person who's sort of skipping breakfast because you're seeing it as sort of like a health benefit thing, and sort of like you're fasted and your body's burning more calories because you're fasted, it's not. It's sort of, if that's causing you to overeat later on and sort of not, obviously, like Laura said, she can have a big lunch, that's great because it's within a calorie goals, but if it's causing you to binge on something later on because you're famished because you missed breakfast, then obviously that's detrimental. On the flip side, if it's affecting training performance, if it's affecting concentration, it all boils down to what me and Jay say. It's just you're going to do what you want to do. If you want to drag your first meal out to midday, then great. If you want to have breakfast, great. It's going to boil down to what you do and what you perform best off. So I just see it as that. See it as meal one. Don't worry about it being breakfast. So whatever makes. I'm one of them. It makes me happy eating. So if I eat in the morning, if I've not had breakfast and I stroll in the gym at 6, Jay will know if I've not had breakfast or not. I won't speak to him for probably the first 10 minutes. So I'm one of them. Coffee and breakfast in the morning. Otherwise, I'm off to a bad start and I'm hungry. So
it as well. It comes out like if you're a shift worker as well. Meal timings and stuff are well out the window. Like when I used to work shifts, I'd eat a lasagna at 2-3 o'clock in the morning, no dramas. Like didn't bother me at all. Whereas some people, they just couldn't eat. Like they physically couldn't eat. So it's what works for you. And like you say, if your job, if your occupation, if you're on shift or stuff like that's going to affect your meal timings and stuff as well. So you just got to find what works for you.
Yeah, definitely. So my next question: can you consume too much water? So generally, I'll advise keeping hydrated as anyone would for health reasons. Staying hydrated. If you've generally not that you've not cared about your health, but if you've not been health conscious ever or for a while, you'll sort of the amount of water you feel like you're drinking will probably feel like you're drowning from the inside out. If you've never really drank before, if you're one of those people who drink 500 millilitres of water a day and that's all you've done, it'll probably feel strange having 2 litres, 3 litres a day. You'll do very, very well to consume too much water. You might be up all night pissing. You might sort of, like you say, you might feel a bit bloated, like you're carrying a bit of water, but I generally worry more if you're under consuming water. So if you're dehydrated, for sort of like cognitive function, like concentration reasons, general health reasons, just for being dehydrated, for like staying fuller, staying like satiated. So I'll generally advise people drink water between meals or with meals, just to push themselves a little bit further in terms of like calorie distribution. It's a good natural appetite suppressant. You'll do really well to over-consume water. You might piss the bed, who knows, but I wouldn't worry. I just make sure you're getting that water in.
Yeah, 100%. Too much is better than not enough. Okay, I'm going to answer one more question, and then I'm going to dive into some of these questions in the comments because I don't want to go over time. So, last question I'll answer. I got sent through. What do you order from Nandos? So usually, me and Liam usually get the same thing. We get the what do they call it, Liam? The big boneless platter. What's it called? The family platter.
No, I can't remember. It's been that long. No bones platter, I think it is.
Yeah, so you get like...
I'm funny about like bones in food. It's just hassle, and it just if someone gets me a whole chicken, just dissect it all for me and give me the meat. I'm not messing about with all the bones and that. So no bones platter.
Yeah, so we usually get the big platter and 4 sides. We usually get that each, don't we? I can't remember the name of it, and the sides will generally be chips, coleslaw, halloumi. And then probably the tender stem broccoli. Not because I'm trying to be healthy, just because I generally like it.
I just get 4 salads, mate. Don't I?
4, yeah, right. Okay, we'll dive into these questions.
Salads, put it on my Instagram story, and then I'd send it back and get me real sides then.
Yeah, excuse me, sir. There's a mistake with this order. Where's the clip? I'm just flicking through these questions, see what I can. See where they've gone. Should I seen Callum put something? Callum,
yeah.
All right, okay. There it is, I've got it. In terms of losing fat, build muscle, which one comes first? Would you aim to lose fat first or after? Does it matter? Does it really matter? To be honest, they'll probably go hand in hand. The best way of losing fat is being active. You're going to get more. You're going to get more out of resistance training than you would out of other types of training. That's a given. So if you're losing fat, you'd be better off doing resistance weight training. And as a byproduct of you losing fat, you will gain muscle, especially if you're new to training. We touched on this last week. If you're new to training, you're going to build muscle in your first year like quite quickly because you've never trained before. So it will come hand in hand. I wouldn't focus too much on building specific areas of muscle. I wouldn't look at building muscle as your key goal. If you do need to lose body fat, I'd look at losing the body fat, and then whatever muscle mass you have built as like a kind of byproduct to work with. So once you've got rid of that fat, you've got muscle there, you've got a foundation there, and then you can look to then increase food and add muscle mass after that, if that makes sense. Does it matter? No. Like I say, I'd just go on your key goal. If you've got body fat to lose, start with that, and you will build muscle, and it'll go hand in hand. Unless, obviously, the only other time you won't do that is if you're just running for days on end and you lose your body fat that way. So if you're just one of these people that get on the treadmill and just do loads and loads of cardio, lose 2-3 stone, amazing, really good, well done, you've lost 2 or 3 stone, but at the end of it, you're not going to have any muscle mass to then work with, and then you're going to be starting building muscle from scratch. Unless you don't want muscle. If you don't want muscle, then carry on your treadmills. But I hope that answers your question. Lee, have you anything to add to that?
So yeah, like Jay said, we touched on this last week with sort of new people to the gym. You can do both. It's generally what you want. I see a lot of younger people. Me and Jay discussed this. If I could go back 10 years now, I'd just eat as much as I could and train as hard as I could. Yeah. I'd build as much muscle as I could, and then I'd cut it away. I see a lot of people going through this sort of like bulk cut cycle, and you're not giving yourself long enough in a surplus to build.
No.
I'm building now. I've been in a surplus now since September last year, and I'll probably be in a surplus till, I'd say, another probably 9 to 12 months, just purely to put on as much size as I can, and then I'll cut back and see what I've built. If you're building and cutting willy-nilly, you're literally just yo-yoing. You're going to be accruing no more muscle tissue. When you cut down, it's just going to be as you were. So yeah, goal dependent. If you're carrying loads of body fat and you do training, you will build muscle while you're stripping fat. But it's goal dependent. Just make sure if you are cutting to reveal muscle, you've actually put the graft in to build some, and you're not just sort of like getting skinny. If that is your aim, sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Lee, there's a question for you there, mate.
So Liam, should I try and continue weight training at the moment whilst running every day, or focus on completing my challenge? So for anyone who doesn't know, Sean's running 5 kilometres per day in May. This is a shameless plug. I'm not bothered. 5 kilometres a day every day in May to raise money. So generally, I'd say it depends on recovery. So you're probably going to struggle to train lower body, I'd say, during this time. If you're smashing in a big leg day and you're either trying to go for a run afterwards, or you're training first and then going for a run, or vice versa, you've done your 5K and you're trying to do legs. Considering you're doing it every day, I'd look at a recovery perspective whether training legs at the moment is going to be detrimental for you. I'd hate for you to get sort of 20 days into your challenge. You do a leg day and then you can't complete the 21st day. You've done all that for the sake of one leg day. You're not going to build a set of quads that you want. You're not going to build your tree trunk legs. It's just going to hinder you. So I'd say at the moment, by all means, maybe do some upper body stuff, arms every day. Just train your upper body if you want to. That's not going to hinder as such. Make sure you're getting enough food in if you are doing that, and generally just make sure you're getting enough food in anyway. But if you are going to train on top of that, I'd make sure that you're sort of prioritising recovery in terms of getting enough carbs and getting your protein in, getting your water in, getting enough sleep in. So you can resistance train, I'd say, but maybe avoid legs. Get your runs out the way. There's plenty of time to build legs afterwards, and you'll have calves the size of a house by the end of it anyway. So you can lend me a calf, and I'll give you a bicep or a try or something in exchange.
Yeah, I'd be living on a foam roller, running every day.
Yeah. I'm still recovering from my 5K from a few weeks back. Me calves just settled back down.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, I think we've nailed. Let me just double check all the questions. Callum, I remember when Liam nearly disowned me because shoots in at Pyrenees. Callum, you're just an animal, though.
Horrible man. He was eating it with a spoon.
Oh, he's horrible, Liam. He's not even my mate. He's not even my mate.
I actually don't even know who he is. I don't know how he's doing here.
No. Right, guys, we've gone over, so we'll stop waffling. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Yeah. Oh, we've helped answer a couple of your questions. If there's anything you're unsure of what we've mentioned, drop us a message. If you've got another question for next week or you need answering, just message either one of us and we'll